Thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and ITY video. I'm here today with Tess Ariotti. She's the head of CSR at Samsung. Welcome to the program.
Hi.
So you've been involved with Remix and Make My Idea and STEM research. Let's start with Remix, this big two-day conference that happened late last week. What is Remix and what was Samsung's involvement?
Remix is a conference that explores technology, entrepreneurship, arts and culture. And Samsung's involvement was building on the work we do with STEM in the community, and Remix and Samsung together were like, how can we explore STEM education through arts, technology, culture, entrepreneurship, to start to build a greater understanding of why STEM skills are relevant to the wider community.
And I mean, we're here in 2017. What is the level of STEM in schools today compared with years gone by?
We do understand that there is a declining interest in studying STEM-based subjects at high school and in university. Having had a look at some of the data on New South Wales Department of Education's enrolments and things like that, it's probably only about 16% of students really invested in these subjects. And so what we really need to do is drive higher engagement in these areas, which is one, making sure that the education they're actually receiving in school is really relevant. But there's another part of that, and that is much more about how to build inspiration. Young people need to want to study these subjects and see that it's relevant for them and make really proactive decisions about why this is a positive thing for their life.
I mean, to me, it almost seems like the conundrum between content consumption and content creation. Being a consumer and being a manufacturer, how can it be in this age of smartphones and tablets and, international space stations and all these things that less than 1 in 5 students are interested in science, technology, arts, education and math? It's like, I'm glad that you guys are pushing forward because clearly there's a giant need for this.
Absolutely. We are seeing that young people are growing up as technology consumers, but not really seeing as their role as technology creators. And there's so much opportunity if that mindset shifts. We know that the roles that are being created now and will continue to be created in the future are STEM skill based or will benefit from knowing those skills. So we can see that this is really huge demand, and that if more young people are studying these skills, regardless of whether they have a really technical job or not, they will benefit from it. And if they as individuals benefit from it, they have more opportunity to help their wider community as well.
And of course, we see these initiatives like Hour of Code and Code Like a Girl and Code Like a Boy too. I don't know, all these different, everyone can be a coder, but we see all these initiatives as well. But look, with Remix, I mean, what was the goal over those last couple of days? What were some of the highlights for you from that conference?
For Samsung, working with Remix, it was really a chance to explore some of those themes about why the community should care about STEM, how they can start to be involved in the conversation, and consider different ways that STEM can be involved in things you haven't thought about before. So, for example, one of our speakers is Red Room Poetry. So some poets were talking about how to be creative through the use of digital assets and technology and how that has driven their art. So I think it's just rethinking those stereotypes about what technology and STEM is, and moving into understanding them as tools to help you do what you want to do with your life. And so that's what we were really trying to explore at Remix, how to use STEM and STEM education and technology and innovation as tools to be able to build the life that you want to build.
Yeah, I think it comes down to helping people change their perspective. Something I was reading about how kids today see science and technology and math as boring, and it's like, no, this is really exciting stuff. So teachers and the community and technology companies, I'm glad to see that we're really working hard to try and change the perspective and get people really interested in this. Now, Samsung also had the Make My Idea campaign, and this came from a thing called Creators Wanted last year. So please tell us about that.
Well, Make My Idea was exactly what you've just been saying. So we can do, Samsung does do a lot of work as part of the way we invest in the community with teachers and educators on, help supporting them to do the best job they can and provide an education that's relevant to 21st century students. But the other side of that is exactly what you're talking about if a young person is saying, well, this is boring, it's not relevant to me, I'm not interested, it's not what I'm passionate about, they're not going to continue to choose it, and they have to be actively choosing these subjects to create that change. So Make My Idea did build on the Creators Wanted campaign last year, where we threw out a few different concepts into the digital social media platform and asked young people and the population in general to engage with them and tell us what they thought, and there was lots of conversation about that. But this year, Make My Idea competition built on that, and it was saying to the young people, actually, what do you want to see created? We've shown you what we thought. What would you like to see? What would you like to use in the future or like to be a part of creating? And it was a way of having that conversation and opening that conversation with them and rethinking, if we do have a problem with engagement in STEM, how can we, as you say, reframe that question? How can we start to say, okay, I'm not going to force you to want to engage in maths or science, but let's have a conversation about what you're interested in, what means something to you, what's a problem in your everyday life, and how would you solve it? And then can we start to also have a conversation about what STEM skills would be required to do that. So if we know that the young person's already interested in something, how can we use that as an access for saying, okay, cool, this is a wider conversation. And actually, did you know that there are lots of really STEM related skills that would go into this, or different career paths that you could use that might then lead you to an area, like a passion point for your own career.
So I guess the next obvious question is, what did the kids say?
Wow, that's a lot.
A lot, yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
We had well over 5,000 entries
Wow.
in a few short weeks, which just shows how willing to be engaged in these sorts of conversations if they feel that they have a really powerful voice and that they're listened to, and that we do start to talk to them in ways that are relevant to them. So I think that's a really great insight that we can all learn from. There was some really great ideas. One of the winning ideas was Power Nap, which was a sleeping bag or mattress that captured body heat and converted it into electricity to be able to charge small objects like mobile phones, etc.
Sure. And do you know how it did that? Was there some sort of little sensor inside that vibrated or something? Or?
Yeah, so as part of the competition, we were really just getting young people to throw out their ideas. It's like, anything, let's throw it out. And then we had a series of experts working on some ideas to talk about how to make that would be reality. Possible. Yeah. If it's not, that one's a little bit futuristic, not quite possible yet, but the Make My Idea show, which was on YouTube and still there, it allowed a conversation to sort of say, well, this is what would need to change, this is what need to be innovated. Maybe have a chat to this sort of person who's worked on this sort of thing.
And next thing you know, it'll be a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign, and they'll be the next internet billionaire.
Absolutely, and no one will ever forget to charge their phone overnight again. Which would be great.
And so what were some of the other winning ideas that you can remember?
There was also one of my personal favourites was just a bit of fun. It was an app on a smartphone or wearable or something like that that would listen to the conversation that was happening around them, to pick up the mood and the tone, and then would soundtrack your life, basically. Would play a song relevant to the mood of the room, which I just think would be fabulous. Who doesn't want their life soundtrack like a real life movie star? So there's some fun ideas like that. There were other, quirky ideas about safety, lots of ideas about how to have a
memory foam for the helmet.
Memory foam helmets was one, which was really, simple, but really strong.
Helmets are normally not very comfortable, so to have some sort of memory foam in there's like insoles for your shoes, right? Make them more comfy.
Exactly.
Why not for your head?
Exactly. And we know that young person had actually kind of fallen off a horse recently, so that was a really personal experience.
Yeah.
And I think that was the ideas that really stood out, were the ideas that solved a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that is really what STEM education can do. It can help you solve problems. It can help you identify problems, and then it can help you to work towards solutions for them.
Now, you mentioned the Make My Idea show, which is at the Samsung YouTube page, but tell us about this show and how long it goes for, and I guess it's chronicling some of those inventions you spoke about.
Exactly, and that was the point of it. It was to take all the great ideas, or as many as we could possibly fit into a half an hour slot, from the ideas from that were submitted as through the competition. Some of them had been prototyped, some of them had been designed, 2D illustrations, 3D models. And it was really, the show really goes through it in quite a bit of detail with different experts
the students themselves.
Some influencers and that sort of thing. So they go through what the different ideas were, the sorts of people that might have to work on it, how how closer we are to this becoming a reality, or maybe we're a few more years down the road, but what would have to shift in innovation. Calling out a few things like don't forget the laws of physics. We can't break them.
Yeah, we don't have anti-gravity machines yet, even though we'd love them.
So it's just working through those things that go into creating the things around us in the world that we love and we use every day. So if you can see yourself in that creator role of creating your future, creating the world around you, just have a better understanding about how to go about it.
Now, I want to ask you about some of the other activities Samsung's been involved with in CSR over the past year and what you might have planned for next year. But is there anything else about the Remix conference and the Make My Idea show and the stuff the kids were doing and that you want to tell us about that I haven't asked you about?
Yeah, I think the key call out is how comfortable we should be with where the state of the nation's going. If in a few short weeks we can have exciting, unique, useful, practical ideas and inventions submitted by young Australians, we know that there's a lot of passion and creativity and thoughtfulness. So as a community, let's all work together to leverage that and support and nurture that. So I think that's just the key message that I got from the Make My Idea campaign.
As our political leaders tell us, we're the agile, innovative nation. So I'm glad to see that the companies are making that proclamation come true. Now, tell us a little bit about some of the CSR activities you've done this year. I know we spoke recently at the Parliament House in Canberra where you were doing some stuff with students. And just give us a quick wrap on that. And what have you got planned for next year? Are you going to be involved with Make My Idea again, for example?
So yeah, we've had a big year. We've worked on some research, which is where I spoke to you last, the University of Canberra, really investigated how spatial reasoning can assist STEM skills. So we're working with groups at that really foundational, what skills, exactly what will change and make a difference. We're also working with Social Ventures Australia on their Bright Spot Schools Connection program, and that's a network of 50 schools across 3 states. And we're working very intensively with 14 of those schools on STEM projects. So there'll be really great insights coming out of that next year. And again, that's that grassroots, how are students having a better experience in the classroom? How are we supporting teachers in the really important work that they're doing? And we're working with the network of really motivated, inspiring teachers. So how can we learn from them and then share that message out with the wider school community? And then next year we will continue to be committed into working with the community and supporting the community and actually helping the community to help themselves. And we really want to continue in that space, and working through STEM education, we think we can get some really good results. So there'll be a lot of activities. Stay tuned. We're still working exactly what those campaigns and things will be, but we'll certainly continue to work with Social Ventures Australia and our existing partners like Questacon. So
yes, and I remember Questacon as a kid. It's been around for a long time. Always a very scientific playground.
Well, they just
Disneyland
reminded me it's their 30th anniversary next year.
Wow.
So
well, that'll be an opportunity to really do something special.
Yeah. Fun STEM-inspired parties, I'm sure.
So, any final messages for the viewers and for any children watching who really want to get involved in this whole area?
I definitely recommend to check out the Make My Idea show because it is actually a lot of fun, and you might learn something that you didn't expect to learn, or you might have an idea about where you can go in the future. And just for everyone in general, check it out, because I think what we can all learn from young people is, and what I've learned has been reinforced again through the Make My Idea competition. Kids look at things a bit differently. They've got a fresh perspective. They're really creative with how they solve problems. They really want to engage in the world around them. So let's really respect and value that opinion and champion them, but also, do what we can to get that mindset sometimes, because I think that puts us all in a better place.
And I guess for parents watching this show, they should really find out what their school is doing in the STEM area and really encourage them to press forward and make it an important part of the curriculum.
Exactly. It does vary from school to school about exactly how that's playing out. So definitely get involved, and you might find some really exciting programs that are happening at your school.
Well, Tess Ariotti, Head of CSR at Samsung Australia, thank you very much for your time and best of luck for the future.
Thank you.